This episode is sponsored by DS, a team of makers, marketers, and entrepreneurs that help businesses transform their brand experience and unlock growth like never before. Are you a CMO, founder, or business leader looking to level up your brand and marketing? Head over to weareds.com and let's explore what is next for your business. That's weareds.com. Visit us to learn more.
Welcome to Forward Obsessed, where we talk to breakthrough business leaders and rising entrepreneurs about their journeys, origin stories, and aha moments.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Forward Obsessed. We really appreciate your support. We want to keep this show going and keep this show growing. The way that you can help is, first and foremost, hop on forwardobsessed.com. Tell us a little bit about what you want to hear more of. Shoot us a note. We'd love to hear from you and know how we can help you in your entrepreneurial journey. And if you have a moment, just please take just a second to give us a review on wherever you tune in, Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Please smash that like button and comment button. It really helps us spread the word and keep having amazing people on to grow amazing audiences for folks like you. On this episode of Forward Obsessed, we talked to a maverick Maven founder named Eckhouse Barzilai. She is an incredible woman, entrepreneur, and blew our minds. So really, this is a true story of overcoming hardship and ultimately going on to contribute to the FaceID technology, and she was acquired by Apple. So on this show, you're going to learn amazing things. You're going to see the stories and struggles of becoming a mother, what it's like being a woman in tech, having to overcome the boys club. You're going to learn about what sets brands apart from a differentiation perspective and why you need to invest in brand early as a startup. You're going to learn the differences between technology-led companies and technology companies versus product-led companies and the power of product. So on this episode, lots of nuggets, lots of wisdom. Please tune in and enjoy this episode. Hello and welcome to this episode of Forward Obsessed. I'm your co-host, David Salinas, joined by
Pete Senna.
And today we have an incredible founder, Eckhouse Barzilai, coming in from New York. We're very excited to have you.
Hi.
Adi, thank you for coming.
Thank you guys for having me. Super excited to be here.
So our show, we always like to figure out where the entrepreneurial bug comes from, right? For a number of reasons. We're looking for patterns. We have people that are raising children that want to see their children become entrepreneurs. So we would like to go back to the beginning to see if we can find a seedling, something that created it all. So tell us about your background. You obviously weren't born in New York.
In Israel.
In Israel.
Yes.
Okay, let's take us to Israel.
So I was born and raised in Israel. I did live here as a kid, too, in San Diego, which I think helps in general to be a kid on the move. I think it gives you kind of the global perspective that you're not just a citizen of one place, but you're a citizen of the world, which I think for me personally, having two languages, having the ability to make friends in new places all the time, I think it's helped who I am today. So I grew up in Israel. My mother was a teacher. My father was had a PhD in physics and was working for the Israeli for one of the largest Israeli defense companies as an engineer, kind of a classic middle class family in Haifa in the north. Later in life, as I grew up, my father became an amazing, phenomenal entrepreneur. Late in his 40s, he invented IPL and kind of started the whole aesthetic medical business in Israel. So he was really an inspiration for me on many levels, especially growing up kind of without money. And then I remember actually being in the U.S. on a delegation from the Israeli scouts and my father IPOing at the same time. So I got invited to go see him. Wow. At a hotel. They took me in a car. It was the first time I've ever been driven in one of those small limos. This was in 96. And they took me in a car to see him at the hotel where he was at. And it was like this fancy room. And it was the first time that I've ever been in anything like it. He was going to go IPO his company. And this would be something that was change our lives in many ways. Because I remember growing up, I had to choose after school I went to was never, I knew money wasn't wasn't something that we had a lot of. It wasn't a big deal. Like I felt that I had everything I needed, of course, but I think it was something very important in the way I was raised. And then kind of later in life, this was when I was in 16, 17, 18, kind of our status changed. And I saw that entrepreneurial, bug that he had. And I think I understood at the time that the courage he had to do it in his late 40s without kind of growing up with his family is all Holocaust survivors. So no money there, and kind of being brave enough to say, okay, I'm in my 40s, I have 3 kids. I'm going to go out on my own and start a company in the 90s. He's one of the first VC monies in Israel. So I think that's a lot of kind of what developed the bug in me. I didn't always know I was going to be an entrepreneur. I didn't think I was going to be any good at it. But I think it's always kind of been playing in the back of my head. So I did the Israeli army, just like most Israelis. And then I studied computer science, which if I have one advice for anybody not knowing what to study, I always say, study computer science. It's such a great thing to know. I'm a very, very mediocre coder, if not less than mediocre, but it gives me the ability to understand. So I think I understand technology better thanks to that. And when you understand technology, it's much easier to sell technology, to strategize around technology, and to understand kind of how to talk to both the tech side of a company and the business side. And it's just a great, great undergrad to have. So if anybody's listening to this, doesn't know what to study, computer science is just a pathway into technology and into understanding this world that no matter who we are, no matter if we're an artist or if you have whatever you're doing today, you're going to be touching technology. And I think that it's such an important basis for everybody to understand.
I couldn't agree with you more, actually. I did not study computer science. I wish I had, but I was fortunate in my life to be in technology businesses or technology adjacent businesses where I always had technologists around me until I met the big guy here who was an incredible computer scientist and a coder. And again, I think that you don't need to know how to code. You need to understand what code can do.
Exactly.
And that allows you to become a strategist in technology, and you can find people that can help you and find the right co-founders or find the right partners to do that. So I couldn't agree with you more. That's great advice. That's a big tip right there, is that, at least learn it. You don't have to be a coder behind a computer, but you should at least understand what the code can do, what technology can do.
Yeah. Nowadays, I mean, anyone can learn these things. We've got YouTube, we've got ChatGPT, we've got all these different things to understand the basics of math and physics and the universe and coding. These are sort of fundamental first principles, and the more you understand them, everything stacks on top of that, right? So clearly you did that, you know that. I love that you said that. I think it's going to be very valuable for so many people. And also, too, I have to call it out, as David called out earlier, is there's not a lot of women in computer science, and damn sure we need more, right?
So I was one of four. So first of all, in high school, I loved math. I was one of like 3 in advanced math out of our whole class. And then I was one of 14 in my undergrad in computer science. We were 14 girls out of more than 100. So
what did that feel like for you?
I never thought it was, I never thought about it. I want to say, like, I had girlfriends and I had guy friends. Like, I've always been very good on kind of, but maybe I was a bit more of a tomboy. I don't know. But I never thought it was a big deal. Like, I always thought it was, this is just what it is. And then I became a mother of 4 daughters now. And I'm like, no, that's actually not how it's supposed. Why don't I have more females around me? Why do I have, my first job out of college was actually at Procter Gamble. So I went to brand management, and our CEO of Procter, the head of Procter Gamble in Tel Aviv, which was where I was in brand management, was this woman. And I think I grew up in the 80s, and these female mentors that we had back then, she wasn't a mentor to me. She was just the big boss. It was my first job. She was very tough. She was known to be tough. She was known to be a crazy negotiator with the retailers in Israel. Like, she was known, and like, she would walk into the room, we all had to like stand up like that. And I think, again, my generation kind of growing up in the 80s, if there was a strong woman, she was manlier she was more aggressive than most of the men in the room as well, which by the way, she was brilliant and smart and amazing. But it was like, if you were a boss, if you're a female, you had presence, and And I think today it's changing. Like there is kind of a trend of, okay, you can be very feminine and kind, and it doesn't make you less of a boss, doesn't make you less of a strategist. And I hope that by the time my girls grow up, it's going to be different. But there's so much research about how we raise girls, and you're a mother of daughters. You're a father of daughters. I'm a mother of daughters. And no, I mean, if you want to be a mother, you can do whatever you want to be these days. But I think that, raising my daughters, I make a point of some things. Like if they climbed up a tree and I don't help them get down, like you got up there, I walk away. That's my, like, you found a way to get up there. You're stuck there. Find a way to get down. Like, I think.
Well, it's the programming, right? That's the issue, is that the world has programmed us to cater to them. I had an incredible entrepreneur that we know, Mike Graciati, who, when I was having my first daughter, who's 15 now, he said to me, "Can I ask you a question?" And I said, "What's that?" He said, "Are you going to give her Barbies?" And I said, I haven't really thought about it. And he said, "Can I give you some advice?" And he goes, "A Barbie teaches a woman to be revered for her looks and to be put on a pedestal." He goes, "So you can make a choice to give her that, or you can teach her about Wonder Woman and superheroes and women that know how to defend themselves and take care of, fight good, and all that kind of stuff." And it was just this moment that I had, and I said, wow, that's brilliant. And it just,
it's a reframe.
It's a reframe. And then, sure enough, my daughter Brooklyn, she was into Power Rangers, and now and I look back, and some of the traits that she had pissed me off because she's very thick-headed, and she's,
I wonder where she gets that from, folks.
She has these attributes of a leader and someone that thinks that way. She's very strong-minded, and I realized that that's because she had those things in front of her. And I think that's the programming, it's like coding, so to speak, right? That we can turn women and children, girls, into housewives that do laundry and cook and clean, or we can turn them into leaders that can create a future for their families and for themselves.
And I want to talk about choice for a second, because I don't want to presuppose that one is better than the other, or that one is a good or bad thing. So speaking to the audience, for the 14 to 18-year-old young woman who is in that math class or is thinking about joining that computer science class, and she doesn't necessarily have the same mentality that you had, which is, this is just how it is, I'm just going to push forward. What's a piece of advice that you would give to them so that they don't follow in the same norms and tropes that we've seen for the past 20, 30 years? And I think that's a piece of advice that a lot of women entrepreneurs at whatever stage of the journey can learn from you as a strong woman, as a leader and a mother, and all the things that you achieved.
I think it's about not caring to fail. I think it's all about not caring about failing. And I think math, coding, by the way, it's a lot about trying and failing. It's a lot about, okay, I don't know exactly how to do this, but it's all about the growth mindset and things like that I think as females, again, by the way, going back to your Barbie example, we're kind of brought up to be perfect and not to be like grown and failing and falling, whereas there's all this research that's been done. For example, they take girls and boys to a playground and they let the boys climb up this really tall ladder. And they put a really tall ladder and they bring boys' parents and girls' parents, and they let the boys, and when they put the boys in the playground, they're like, oh, go climb, blah, blah, blah. And they push those boys to go climb and fail and maybe fall. And then they bring the girl parents. And by the way, this is the mom and the dad. It's not like a gender, brings gender down kind of thing at all. I think it's us as a society. When the girls start climbing, they're like, oh, watch out, be careful, don't do that. And if they do choose to climb, even though their parents tell them they're not capable in a way because they said so many times to be careful, then they're standing next to their kid and kind of like protecting her the whole way up and watch. And when she wants to come down, usually a parent will climb up and try to bring her down. So what are we teaching our girls and what are we teaching our boys, right? We're showing them that they're not capable. Mm-hmm. And if they fall, they're going to get hurt and they're not going to be perfect. And I think that mindset is what really makes us girls not want to go into math, because it is hard. It's hard. Math is sometimes hard, but yet we use numbers everywhere all the time. Like there's nothing I hate less than people saying to me, I'm bad at math, I'm bad at numbers. I'm like, no, you weren't taught right how to understand numbers. It's not your fault. It's the world's education fault, which is a different subject. And I think that girls in that sense are like, okay, it's hard, so I'll do something that's easy because I need to be perfect and doll-like. And so a man will take me one day and make the meaning of my life to be a mother. And by the way, I do want to say about Barbie one thing. I was super anti-Barbie. And I think that I want to just give Mattel like credit for one, the movie, the comeback, and kind of the perception of making sense in a way that, yes, you can be a Barbie and you can also be, like, I think there's something beautiful about what they're doing right now with the brand.
Strategic brilliance.
Brilliant move. I just like wanted to call that out as like I was super anti-Barbie and now I'm like, okay, you know what? You can play. I played with Barbies, by the way. It was my favorite thing to do as a kid. And I still went to computer science. But that world of imagination, that world, I think is
They tied it together. They did a good job.
they did a good job now. So I do want to say that. But
I have not watched it.
you should watch it. You should watch it with your daughters, by the way.
I'll leave that to my wife. I'm all right.
It's a really good film. Now my daughters have watched it 20 times. I watched it once, and it's actually it's a good film.
My favorite thing about that movie, besides the strategic brilliance and the brand, and I could nerd out on that for 50 hours. I know you don't want to listen to that, neither does she. But my favorite thing is I remember reading an article about how the specific pigment in the color pink that they had to use because of the sets, and they built these large sets, they actually ran out of the color.
Of that pink?
Like supply chain wise, like they had to go and get more of this made specifically. Really cool article, but just goes to show that when you have a vision, again, renowned director, obviously she did an incredible job. When you have a vision, every detail matters, and we're gonna come back on that throughout the show today in terms of the details. And quite literally, when I'm opening my phone today and FaceID came up, I'm like, who am I interviewing today? I'll come back to that. But so let's keep moving. So you were in brand management,
Yes.
and you've got a thing or two to say about MBAs and B school, specifically Columbia. So you're in there for about a year, in the P&G role, and then you decide to go get an MBA.
Yes.
So talk us through, one, what motivated that decision? Because I think these days I've been hearing from some folks that adding MBA at the end of your LinkedIn title can be a bad thing or a good thing, and there's some things around that. So I'm curious to hear your take on MBAs, because the world's changed a lot since
Yes.
you got yours. And then also, you've got a lot to say about Columbia. So let's unpack that.
So first of all, I think for me, being an Israeli and having my undergrad from an Israeli school, which means blah, blah, blah to anybody that's not Israeli, I felt like I understood branding. It was always like marketing and branding is my true passion. So I understood I wanted like a big brand name behind like everything I did. So if I did want to start a company one day and I wanted to go to VC, I feel like having Columbia, Harvard, Stanford, one of these schools with your name kind of gives you the stamp of approval that maybe being from whichever, doesn't matter which university I would go to outside of the US or especially in Israel and the Middle East, like what is that place? So that was the reason I really wanted an MBA.
The brand behind your brand.
It's the brand behind my brand, exactly, which I really wanted like to have that stamp of approval. And whenever somebody consults me, should I go do an MBA? I'm like, look, it's not about the content. Like the content you can get on, as you said, any YouTube video. There's, so many open universities today globally, things that Apple have done. Like there's amazing content out there. It's not about the content. But I will say it's about the people you meet there. So I still think the people I met there there's just no option for a small girl from Israel to meet these like people. There's just no way for me to interact with them. So I'm very, very happy I did it. I do think schools around America, the DEI has kind of come to a place where it's gone so extreme that the story, and I don't really want to get into it now because I think it's very long, but, Jews have been in Israel for thousands of years, probably before. We have a book that we all read called the Bible that's kind of proven that, and yet now the story is, okay, we're the oppressors, and like this whole thing that's going on there, and the fact that anti-Semitism is legit on these campuses, how is this possible? My grandparents were in the Holocaust. Like we're still in a place where Jew hate is just the only hate that's okay.
Well, the schools are desperate to fit in now because the MBA programs are dying because it's no longer in vogue to get an MBA. You've got big companies like P&G removing the requirement for a college degree.
I just want to say something. When I wanted to go to Procter, that same first boss I had, and I got accepted to Columbia, And I went into her office and I was like, I got accepted to Columbia. Like, I want to go. What do you say? And Procter has always been, this is not just a trendy thing. So I do want to call them out on that, on one, being the best marketing school in the world. And two, she said to me, she's like, there's no need for you to go do an MBA. I was like, why? Is this what, you don't want me to go do an MBA?
Get it right here.
She's like, you're going to learn everything you need to know about marketing here. And not only that, when you have a tenure at Procter, so kind of you have like it's kind of like the Army, you get like, the more years you're there, you get a higher ranking, and then you get jobs that can only be done. She's like, we're not going to, if you leave now for 2 years, we're not going to count those 2 years. Like, those are going to be like, you're paying a price for going and coming back to Procter if that's what you wanted to do, which was the opposite of, I'll say 70% of the people that were in school with me, BCG, Baines, McKinsey of the world, were paying their school. Not only were Procter not paying, they were like, you should not go.
Well, and it's the truth. I mean, known in the market today, the best, to your point, what are you going to get from an MBA is a network and a brand credential. A brand credential at P&G is sort of the credential you need in marketing. And you can go to Eddie, you can go to Unilever, you can go to any company. They're like, oh, you're P&G trained? Great. So they knew they essentially had created that credential.
I agree. And I did learn a lot more about everything I know about marketing today.
Mm-hmm.
I learned there certainly more than I would learn at any college, any university in the world. I think real world, by the way, about entrepreneurship too, which I know we haven't even talked about that, but for me, I think the best lessons in entrepreneurship I learned working in corporate America in a strange way, which people don't really understand. But like, if you want to build something that organized, that amazing, that big, you have to see it once. Like, there's the way that these companies are built, the way that you write these briefs, the way that you create an international Pantene, no matter where I go in the world, people know this. And the fact that you put these young, stupid people like me in brand management, and yet you have a system that makes it all together, I think is phenomenal. And I would, again, recommend go to a big company, see how it's done in the right place, then go build your own thing. Mm-hmm. Like, I think that path. So about the MBAs, again, I think the American, I'm not experienced enough to talk about it, but I will say, as a Jew, I have friends that are not safe on campus, that have not been feeling safe on campus. And I'm a pro-peace, left-wing Israeli that just wants peace. And I still don't understand, like, the hate that they allowed there just against Jews, I think will be on their conscience for a very long time. The fact that there wasn't yet a death because of that on campus is just, it's a miracle more than it is for them to, like, it's not theirs, they're doing.
Well, luckily we've had a couple of removals already. Wharton, and with Harvard's already been removed, right?
Yeah.
So we've had a couple of removals for people that didn't do the right thing.
I agree.
While we're on this subject, let's talk about your necklaces.
So my necklaces are about the hostages that are being held still in Gaza. It's 104 days today. These are, I don't know if people even know this, there's Muslims, there's Christians, there's Thai people, there's 30 different nationalities of people that were dancing. A lot of these people were 20-something-year-old PCers that were dancing at a party, just like people go to parties to dance. And just like Coachella, somebody walked in and brutally killed and raped and beheaded. And I don't know why the world kind of disregards October 7th. And a lot of people are just, and again, I hate wars and I hate what's going on. And I have family members that are now recruited to the Army, people that were managing companies yesterday and now are doing full-time Army service, and people that came from America to serve back in the Israel Army to protect our right to be. There's a school district in New York that erased Israel from the map. There's like all these, it's just a very, very crazy time. And I think that no matter what side you're on, you can be pro-Palestinian and pro-Israeli, by the way, at the same time. You just have to be anti-Hamas. These psychopaths that took young, innocent, old, young babies. There's a baby that celebrated a year old yesterday. He's been a third of his life inside these hostage. It's just unbelievable to me. And I want to say to those people out there ripping out those signs of these real people that were kidnapped, you are on the wrong side of history. And I hope you hear this and see this sometime, because you can still be pro-Palestinian and pro-life and pro the ability of people to live. And we've been in that country. Like this is where my home is. You can't just say I don't deserve it because you don't want me to be there. That's not how the world works. And I just hope that these hostages are released. I think none of these people that are there right now did anything to deserve to be there. And I think you can be pro-Palestinian, pro-Israeli, and anti-Hamas. Like terror organizations should not be allowed to
be pro-peace.
Just be pro-peace.
Yeah, stop all the nonsense. Just stop
all the nonsense. Stop ripping off those kidnap signs. I don't get that. That I don't get.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I really can't perceive.
Yeah. I really appreciate you sharing that and bringing that to light. I think a lot of people can benefit from what you just shared there. I'm going to take us on a little bit of a lighter note.
Okay. Wow, that was so much fun talking.
But because it's sad to hear, and I am not educated to speak on it, but it's
he's also a lot softer. Once you said the baby thing, so
baby thing.
It's a baby. It's a real baby.
No, yeah, he got a baby now, so he's softened up a lot.
I've always been soft. Let's be honest. But so I want to talk about brand for a second. So you basically went to the best brand house on the planet. I'm a brander. I'm a marketer. It's how me and him have built multiple companies as a result of it, internally, externally. What is a brand in your words for someone who doesn't know what it is? And then I want to just nerd out with you on branding and marketing for a little bit before we get right back to your amazing, incredible journey.
So I think a brand is any idea, concept, thought, feeling that comes up when you hear or see something that has a name or a word that's connected to it. I think brand is kind of that holistic feeling that you get when you see the word district, I guess, which is a brand that you guys built that's so impressive and amazing. And you feel it when you walk throughout this building. The brand is this building. The brand is talking to you guys when you talk about it. The brand is looking on your website. It's not one thing. It's not a logo. It's not a sentence. I think it's creating something that's so holistic, so cool, so, brand is everything you feel towards something. That's my kind of wide perception of it.
Thank you for sharing that. It's funny. You ask you a brand, you ask 100 people, you get 101 answers. So I thank you for that.
I like the answer, though.
I love the answer.
Feel.
That's feel.
Yeah, it's a feel. It's
a feel.
Everybody thinks it's a logo. It's a color palette. It's not. It's a feel.
So why
everything together?
Yeah.
So I'm asking this question selfishly because I'm so passionate about it. Clearly, it's put food on the table for me for a long time and my family. Why invest in brand as a startup founder? It's expensive. It's time consuming. What's the value of investing in brand as a startup founder?
It's my favorite question.
She didn't tell me that, by the way.
But it's I think at the end of the day, if you're selling, especially people are like, oh, we're a B2B company, we're selling software to this like third, whatever, it doesn't matter. You're selling to people. People have a perception, and everybody likes to buy good things for a cheap price, by the way. That's kind of where it is. And the perception of what's good is a feeling. And if you can give that feeling, which means whatever interaction that person has with your company, it could be the salesperson, it could be the brochure that sometimes people give in like the medical industry or things like that. Whatever interaction, that thing has a meaning, and people have choices. There's never just one choice. There's never just one consulting marketing agency. There's never just one place. And I think you have to invest in a brand if you want people to trust you and buy that thing from you. So even more, sometimes I say, I used to do a lot of consulting and marketing consulting. Even if you are kind of this B2B enterprise medical, it doesn't matter what you are. Like that, in that world, those interactions have sometimes more meaning because product's more expensive, because it's just about the trust. And that brand could be anything from what that salesperson is wearing to any card he gives out to the way he coughs to everything. Like that's, I think at the end of the day, that's what kind of makes a brand in all types of worlds. So if you're speaking to a startup CEO right now who's making the decision on to brand or not to brand, a lot of times what we see is founders and CEOs say, I'll wait. It's not important early on. Having done this before multiple times and now advising some incredible companies, what's the value of investing in this early and how will it affect their long-term trajectory? And then we'll move on to your journey. Again, I think it's not about the money you're putting into it. a lot of these start, like if you don't have money, obviously brand should come after technology, after these things. But I think putting a mindset around brands, consulting with people about the brand. You don't have to have a brand you don't have to have money to make a brand. Like it could be, sometimes I tell startups, you have nothing, you don't want to just do white and black design. Like have nothing, but make it clean and fresh and crisp. That's around the technology. That's around that. Like it could be not investing, but have a mindset that's around
premium.
Yes, exactly. I think that's more. And then I invest in a brand, I can, as I said before, because that's what's going to make the deal. That's because that feel, as we said, when you walk into the room, that you're the best company, you're the best offering. It comes from everything you've done and mostly behind the brand and the thinking. So I think marketing is a lot about strategy. It's about thinking. It's about, kind of implementing that way of thought into anything that's happening inside a company. That's why I find it so exciting.
It's an investment in trust.
Yeah.
That's what ultimately is going to make it all happen.
Fantastic. So you finish your MBA at Columbia.
Yes.
You got a little bit dinged, as you heard about in the P&G, right? You got taxed for the 2 years or 4 years.
I got taxed. So I didn't go back.
You didn't go back?
I didn't go back to Procter. I went to work at Syneron Beauty, which was so Syneron Medical is a large medical aesthetic device company, which sells very large aesthetic devices for hair removal, whatever, any aesthetic thing you can think of, to physicians, which allows, by the way, physicians to make a business out of it. So you don't just have to see patients to make money. You can have somebody do treatments and make money at the same time while you're doing other things. So it's an interesting company in general. But what they did was they started at home unit within this company, so kind of my intrapreneurship journey. So we started a company within that company that sold kind of small at home. Our first thing was a permanent hair removal device. So we built that. I was from everything from like the product to the marketing. We did a global launch. I think one of my most interesting experiences, which I don't think that we talked about earlier, was QVC.
Okay.
Which I don't know if you guys have been on QVC ever.
We've had clients who have been on QVC, coach people so it's an interesting world.
It's, first of all, this is not to date myself, but this is like 2011, probably 2012. So this is the beginning of like
before one-click shopping on Amazon.
Before one-click shopping on Amazon, before you could get data live too. This is a lot and we would sit in these shows and we were doing these live shows. We were doing like QVC 24, the TSV, the Today Special Value. And I would go live and we would get like what's working and what's not working. Yeah. So kind of
like that Joy, was that the Joy movie where the woman?
Yes, exactly. Where she's like, that's working. And it's amazing. You see live data. So you would go on these 20-minute shows and then
segments,
live.
Yeah.
And then you see like, oh, you tapped that. You said permanent, that went up. Like, oh, you said the price, it went down. Like you see
conversion optimization
testing. It's amazing. But this is before we had this data. This is before like really everybody had access to this data all the time. So I think it was like this what digital era marketing is going to look at like for like all brands. And it was probably one of the best experiences as a marketeer. It was amazing. So we did that. We sold the company to Unilever. And I was pregnant with my second daughter. And I left the company to start RealFace, which, by the way, the idea for RealFace, I actually had in 2011. I wrote a patent for it, which was very different than what RealFace was. I don't even think I talked to you guys about this, but we started as a photo app. So our idea was that people are narcissistic, and the only thing people care about in their photos is the way they look. And I think, by the way, this is still absolutely right. When you look at a photo,
look at the top apps in the App Store. Facetune this and filter that and forget about it.
You don't care what your kids look like. I don't care what my husband looks like. I mean, I love him. I want him to look good. But the thing you look at, anybody, by the way, from kids to adults to old people to young people, is what they look like in a picture. Yeah. And so what we did was we kind of took all of your photos and we chose your best picture from everywhere. We learned how you like to see yourself. This is what the patent was about. We learned how you like to see yourself from like your Facebook photos, from your Instagram. This was... before Instagram too? No, this was Instagram, but the beginning of Instagram. So we took your Facebook photos, your LinkedIn, like we took all of your public photos, built like a model of how you like to see yourself, and then chose those pictures from your camera roll. It was picking your best pics from everywhere.
I'm sure Apple loved that you were looking at camera.
So I think they had no idea about us then. We raised the initial money and then we couldn't raise the second round. So we had like a pre-seed, we couldn't raise the seed. We were walking around Israel. to do a photo app out of Israel, to do a consumer app out of Israel is very hard. There's been almost no successes in this world. I think for many, I think there's a very good explanation for it. I think at the end of the day, Israelis are very different from Americans, and it's very hard to create an app for Americans out of Israel. Like, we don't understand the way consumerism works here. Like, you don't understand the whole ecosystem, the culture, everything. You think you do because we watch movies, we're here a lot. When Israel, like, people always say Israel is like the 51st, 52nd state, but it's still not America. Like, we don't have Amazon and that at one click. We don't have a lot of things. So I think it's very hard for Israelis to perceive that consumerism, and that's why there's not a lot of good consumer companies coming out of Israel. There are some, but like, it's very hard, let's put it that way. And for us, it was really hard to raise the second round. So that's when we pivoted. And basically, I think the thing I'm most proud of that we did as a company, except the fact that we sold in the end to Apple, was that we pivoted really well as a company. So we kind of took the whole company together and we said, okay, guys, we need to change. We're not going to be doing consumer apps anymore. Let's think of what we have. And then basically, when we took all the assets of the company, pinpointed, sat for 3 days, the whole 7 people. And we were like, okay, what we really have is really good face recognition. That's what we have. That's different than anything. That's really differentiated. We had a really, really good team. We're two brothers, deep learning guys who did amazing face recognition. And we're like, okay, let's build a company around this face recognition. What can we do with face recognition? And we were like, oh, wait, there's a camera in every phone. Why don't we think about a software solution that when you pick up your phone, and instead of that stupid thumbprint that we had that was invasive, you had to make the consumer do something. Why don't, when you pick it up with your face, looks at your face, there's a camera, let's write software that solves that.
That was your aha moment. So just to be clear, you were forced into this pivot.
We were forced into this pivot.
And then you made a decision. So you have your aha moment. It was 3 founders. It was you plus the 2 brothers.
Yeah. No. It was me and Aviv, who co-founded the company initially with me.
Yeah.
And is my best friend's husband.
Mm-hmm.
So that was complex and amazing. We're still best friends. We survived an exit. We survived a pivot. So it was a great journey we had together. And our third co-founder, who joined later on, who was our technology guy, who's a phenomenal technologist.
How hard was it to make that decision? I recently read Jeff Bezos talked about decisions. You have one-way doors and two-way doors. 2 ways you can come back from. One-way doors you can't. So you're basically out of money. You're choosing a one-way door at this point to make this pivot.
I think every door you make is a one-way door. You can never go back. It's like going back in time. You can't go back to the door before you entered it. You understand what? Like, it's a different door once you've entered it. So,
but in theory, like, for example, so I would disagree, because I think that you could have made the decision that you were going to test and learn to see if a B2B pivot would work, and you might have still had a little bit of cash runway left over. Again, it sounds like you were in dire straits, but if you had a little bit more of a cash runway, that didn't necessarily have to be a full-on thing. Maybe it's a separate brand.
And you're not walking into the door. And you're opening the door, you're looking through it.
Okay.
Look, if you're Jeff Bezos, you have an endless amount of money. Seriously, like, if you've built the best company in the world, you can start an idea, throw hundreds of millions of dollars, go through that door, and then close it and not feel that. That's
but early stage is one way.
But where we were as a I can tell you as the CEO, it was horrible. It was like, there's the guys, we have maybe a door. It's not even walking in the door. There might be a door over there that I don't know if there's a real door. And we're gonna try to open it up, but we all make this decision together, because if we're all pivoting that way, I think we all need to make that decision together. And there's always that feeling of, for me, my startup journey was always a feeling of dire straits. Like, there was always a knife, kind of. I never felt that we were on our way. Even after we signed the agreement with Apple, which, again, we know the ending of my story, I was like, is this real? Or are they gonna, like, can they take the money back if they don't like? Like, I think I've always had that feeling of, like, this is not really, like, again, it might be a feminine thing.
Something bad might happen.
And again, we had, I think, in our startup journey, it was never easy for us. It was never easy. It was, I always say, like, it was never, oh my God, I had this idea, we raised $100 million, we sold for $2 billion. No, that's not at all. And there are people that I know that have that amazing success, and I think it's amazing. I just think those stories are, like, that's...
Few and far between.
Yeah.
No, there's no straight line.
There's no straight line.
I want to touch on something that I think that we just quickly jumped over that I think is really worth unpacking for our audience, and also, really paving the right way for what our future guests will look like, what our future audience will continue to look like and grow. You started this company after you had your second daughter.
Yes.
Right? So just like your father, who was middle class, but then started a business and became an entrepreneur in his 40s, right? Worked out well for him and your family, but that wasn't the life that you guys always knew, right? So what I want to understand is, you got lucky, not lucky, you worked your butt off, and the company that you were at previously as an employee and an entrepreneur ended up selling to Unilever.
I want to say nobody thought it makes sense that I leave. Like, I remember talking to people I fully trust, and they're like, wait, you have this great job. I had a great job. I was being paid well. I could raise my kids. Like, I had a good, work-life balance. I was working hard. I was setting an example. I felt like I was setting an example for my daughters. Had a corporate life. Like, everything made more sense to stay. And I remember people that I trust, especially females in my life, telling me, why do you want to go on this path with like no salary for a while? No, like, why not just continue where you're going?
Yeah. Why?
And I think at that stage, I think once you have that bug, which I guess I always had, but I was always afraid I was going to fail. So I never wanted to admit I had it. I wanted to build, like, I wanted to change. Like, I wanted a solution for my photo apps. Like, I wanted it, and I wanted to see it happening. And today, my passion is different things, but I think if you have that bug of, I can see something and I want to do it, and I don't care if I fail doing it, which again, I think is the reason there's no women, because we do care failing. And now I think after I've had maybe like some type of success, I'd feel more comfortable to say, yes, I don't mind failing. I by the way, we didn't get to the end of my story, but the last 3 years I've been working on a holographic display that the company is now in high. We put it to sleep, let's call it that way. But like, you can still fail. Like, even you can be a successful entrepreneur and then not, like, I think you always have that option.
Is it possible that the peaceful person that you are really likes to fight?
I hate fighting.
Yeah, but you have a knife against your neck the whole time, and you're fighting out of all these holes.
But you like to compete. Business doesn't always have to be about war. I think what I'm hearing is you like to compete.
I say fight, but there's
sport. For me, it's sport. For you, it's not war. Because I think there's too many. I think this is the thing that pisses me off in business is too many fucking people talk about business as like, we have to conquer this market, we have to dominate this stuff. Very masculine. And like, I think that like overly masculine, like whatever, like, to me is bullshit. So for me, I'm not hearing the knife against your throat. It's like you've got a little bit of a high level of neuroticism, which is part of the ocean model you learned about at P&G, right?
Sorry, yeah.
It's but true, right?
Yeah.
And so you're taught to be risk averse in some cases, but you're also hella bold and charging forward against your own vision and not just somebody else's vision, which is how you kind of came up, right?
Well, the reason why I say it is because we often say that the plight of an entrepreneur is crazy, right? We are
mental.
Yeah.
It's a mental health issue, right? So it's somewhat of it's sort of masochism, right? Tuesday was like incredible news. Wednesday, I wanted to throw myself off a building for a very short period of time, but I was just like, how could it be so bad and so good at the same week? But there's, like I said, you want peace, but for yourself, you're willing to take on really big challenges that put you through a tremendous amount of hardship and turmoil, which is different. That's a battle. It's a fight.
It's
a woman that went to the army to learn Krav Maga and kill people.
Again, I hate fighting less than I don't like fighting. It's more that I don't like not like having attention with people. For me, it's about like, I really like people, I find people very interesting. All people, by the way, like I have something to learn from everyone, and I just don't like not getting along with people. I know it's pathetic to be a 43-year-old woman and say, I don't like fighting with you, but so that's what I don't like about the fight. Mm-hmm. But I do like to create value. I do like to create value more than anything. And I think something about that entrepreneurial bug is, okay, how do I make this better? Okay, maybe I can just do it. Like, why wait for somebody to do it? Maybe I can do it. Like, I think as a parent, you kind of like have to rise to that occasion because nobody else is going to parent your kids. Turns out that just they are your responsibility. And I think
There's no off button.
There's no.
They like to give you some opinions, though.
Well, everybody likes to give you. Everybody likes to give me opinions.
Sounds like a mind's eye thing too, though. Like you're scrolling through your phone, right? And you're annoyed that this solution doesn't exist, and that annoyance scratches at you like an itch, and it's an itch you can't scratch, and you have to do something about it. And you go and you start a company. One of the things that
for me was going, by the way, to write a patent, and then like waiting, and then telling all my friends about it, and then waiting for Aviv to say to me, "Why are you talking about this all the time? Just go do it." And I'm like, "I don't want to do it alone." He's like, "I'll do it with you." And I was like, okay, somebody believes it. I needed somebody else to think it was a good, except the patent lawyer and like I needed somebody to think it was a good idea and to say, "I'm going to do it with you," for me to do it, which is
I think
stupid.
Yeah. I think, and I want to unpack this because you just said something that we talk about a lot on this show, which is what I like to refer to as the castle of the co-founder, right? For me, if I didn't have him, I never would have started my own business. Like I started a business, but it was like a little freelance thing, but I never would have took it to what we ended up building, which was substantial, right? National company, big brands. There's a castle walls that you get to put up when you have that co-founder because you're in the fight together. It's a lonely place building a business. It's a lonely place as an entrepreneur, even with co-founders, right?
Yeah.
So I say that a lot. I read about that a lot. And I'm hearing it again here now, 50-something episodes into the show, where it wasn't until you had that sense of belonging, community in your co-founder
100%.
that those castle walls came up and you said, you know what? Now I'm going to build a kingdom, and that kingdom is going to be this app. Fair?
100%. And then, by the way, that kingdom, going back to where we were, that pivot, we do this together or we don't do it at all. Like it's not, I always say I never want to be the CEO again. Like it's being the person that has to like be, okay, the decision starts and stops with you. And I think you guys talk about this on your show a lot, that there's like the CEO and the builder. I think today, knowing myself a lot better, being like older and more mature, maybe not more mature, some would say, but older. I think it's about knowing like today I don't want to be the face.
I call bullshit.
What?
I call bullshit. Having spent an hour with you so far, I can't see you being anything less than a number one. Just in terms of like, you've got that leader, you've got that vision, you've got that driver. Can you?
I mean, if she has the self-awareness to say she doesn't want to be number one, then so be it. I mean, there's some people that just don't want to be that. They like to be the builder. They like to be the person that comes up with the ideas. And you've been through once you've been through a few, it's hard. I love to make the decision. If you give me the data and I have you on the team and you're going to give me all the data in the world, I love to be the person that says left or right. This is where we go.
So I don't mind being that person, but I'd rather be like, okay, now you decide. Because I know today there's no right decision.
Yeah.
It's so
there's only a decision.
There's only a decision.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, I know better storytellers than me. I know better. Like I would actually rather be number two. I'm saying that I
believe you now. Well, that you've unpacked, I believe it. So.
I don't mind being number. I've been number one. Like I've been the CEO. It's great and it's horrible. Like
It's great and it's horrible. I want to get that as a t-shirt. There it is. Waiting for our t-shirt moment, folks. We just found our first one today. It's great. I'm the CEO. It's great and it's horrible.
There's our t-shirt. We're looking for that now at every show.
I appreciate sleep. Like I appreciate sleep today more than I appreciate being the decision maker. That's the bottom line for me. That's why it's not bullshit.
So I want to dig into something because nowadays nobody will shut the fuck up about AI, right? And
my favorite subject.
Yeah, it's actually one of my favorite subjects too. And we've been doing stuff with companies that really specialize in machine learning for almost a decade at this point in the energy space, the aerospace, like. So we know the space like pretty well, but now everyone thinks because they can download ChatGPT or Claude that they know AI, right? With these large language models. There's something that you did that was very special that I want to make sure is not lost on this audience, which I talk a lot about on this show, which is this idea of the riches are in the niches. And when you looked at your business and you looked at this consumer app and you pivoted to the B2B, what you ultimately had is not a model for everything, but very, very specifically, the niche there was you had the best facial recognition model that was specifically trained to do that. And because you had that one specific gem, you did that versus saying, we're going to be at everything to everyone. We're something very specific to someone.
I'll tell you even more than that. I'm not even sure that's the right statement. I think we had within the niche of face recognition, we had a lot of things that we solved around that specific solution of face recognition. And I think if you're a technology company, and I do want to like stop and talk about that, if you're not a product company, which I think is, by the way, very, very hard to build.
What's the difference?
I think a technology company has to have a differentiated IP in the world of technology and try to solve one thing really, really, really well. Like, by the way, there's so many examples of this. Then you can grow to be everything or sell or
Give us one.
Of a good tech company. Like,
One example that you're fond of that the audience can learn.
I think Twilio is like a great example of how they solved something for the developer and then became this all-around full solution and amazing company. Even what's happening today, I still think like that's a great example of solve something niche really well,
right,
and do the tech behind. Especially if you're if you're not an American founder and if you're an international founder. And I think at the end of the day, there's a lot to be said about immigration here and tech talents coming into here and all these amazing things. But especially as an Israeli founder, I think solving tech, but real tech, not about the storytelling, not about the brand, not about the things that there's nothing. Americans just know how to do it better. Then you better solve one thing really, really, really well. By the way, it was hard for us to raise money from VCs. They were like, okay, let's say you are solving this. Let's say the future is face recognition. Like, let's say they believed me that the future is face recognition. And the second question would be, okay, if that's the future, then Apple and Google are going to do it. What are the chances that Apple is going to buy you? And I've been asked that, and I said, I don't think they're going to buy it. Like, the chances are very, very low. I understand that. But I think if you're a tech founder and you're doing something really, really, really well and get the best people on it, solve one thing really, really well, there's enough money in the tech industry that somebody will find value that even if you don't make it to Twilio and like be that company that takes that tech on a wider sense, you still have an offering that will be worth money to another company.
I love that.
And I see like we had competitors, people that I knew in Israel that were doing face recognition stuff and buying. There were a lot of models out there. There were a lot of things, AI was available in 2014 or 15. People were buying face recognition models and then kind of patching it into a product that they would try to sell to other company. Like then there's no real value. To buy something and kind of patch tech on it, that's nice. But that kind of can be done by, again, those larger companies easily. But if you solve something on the tech side, it's going to be worth something to someone.
So now flip that coin for me.
Yes.
Back on that P&G hat, put back on that Columbia hat for a moment with that love of brand. Now describe for the audience a product company.
So I think a product company starts from the other side. They start from what the consumer needs, what the consumer really needs, and they solve that and they find the tech to kind of add into that. So they make the best user experience, the best brand, the best feeling that you have when you use this product. And then they build the tech. By the way, WhatsApp is a great example of that. They build the tech slowly to be everything to everyone. And again, I think the first time I saw WhatsApp, it was like, oh, this is like another SMS, but it is just, it's not big here for some reason.
It's huge here, are you kidding?
It's huge for everybody that has a Google phone, because in order for them to communicate with iPhone, they go to WhatsApp.
But still, when I communicate,
for us nerds, we love WhatsApp.
Oh, so. It's a much better product than iMessage, and don't have nothing against Apple. It's still the only. I have this joke which you probably shouldn't put in the show, but the only bad thing I have to say about Apple is that they bought our company. Like, that's the only. So
we're definitely leaving that in.
Yeah.
But for me, I think what you left out there is you're absolutely right. WhatsApp, big deal. But when it became ubiquitous, when it became the thing that bridged together people from all over the world, what's your WhatsApp? When WhatsApp became that brand and had that ubiquity, that's when it took off. And that's when they added in the integrations and the this, to that.
This and that. And then you become. But again, you have to. And I say this to entrepreneurs I talk to all the time, even though people don't, it's like, solve one thing really, really, really well, and it will be valuable to somebody that has money at the end. Like, and I think that's been proven in the tech worlds over and over and over and over again. Like, it's really hard to find good technological solutions, and it's much easier to find good products.
So I got to rope us back in, because that's my job, to get us back to the journey, which is what I love the most personally. Not that I wasn't appreciating you guys describe your class for an MBA. So you're about to fail.
All the time.
You pivot.
Yes.
You go into facial recognition.
Yes.
B2B specific.
B2B.
Yeah. We try to sell to banks.
Did you raise money right away?
We raised a little bit of money, and then we go to China.
Yeah.
And we have this big tour of somebody I knew that was like taking us to see face recognition companies in China. And again, we have 2 developers working full time. Let's say two like AI engineers working full time. And then I go to see these companies, and I walk into rooms with 4,000 AI engineers working full time.
How much are they scary?
And
especially in China, where you know they're going to steal from you.
well, I had nothing, like there's nothing to steal from me except my like there was nothing, and I was just there, and I was like, okay, how is this even possible? And then we do start telling what we're doing, and then at one point we get really good. We're negotiating with a few VCs in Israel, and then we get this really good term sheet from a Chinese VC that has better terms, more money, and I make a decision as the CEO. We should go with a Chinese VC because they want to give us more money. Like we don't need to raise. I think it was almost twice as much as we were going to raise. They wanted to give us. The equity was a little bit more. It was a better deal.
Yeah.
It's a better deal, and we signed that agreement. We go through due diligence. Everything is like on paths to work, and then
you're going back and forth to China now. So as a mother, as a CEO,
yes,
the plane over to China.
I went to China a few times, and I was the only one almost doing the travel.
Must have been exhausting.
It was exhausting.
Due diligence is an exhausting process.
Due diligence is exhausting, even though retrospectively, I think it was a little strange. Because it was now due diligence is a horrible product, but like the whole fact of like putting your whole life into a folder today, and like letting people kind of look through it and ask you questions all the time is
like
so
a cavity search.
Yeah, it's like a cavity search. And the due diligence ends. We sign the SBA. This is the share purchase agreement, and there's a closing, and the money doesn't go through. And the money just doesn't go through.
So you signed the closing agreement.
We sign it. Both sides sign it, and the money doesn't go through.
Wow.
And by the way, this is another feminine thing. I start crying.
Why is that feminine? By the way, I would be crying too.
And I cried for 20. Like I couldn't do anything except cry. Which again, it happens to me when I get stressed. When I get
It's emotional.
I was so emotional.
It should be okay. We should make it okay for her to say it's not a female thing.
Yeah,
it's a male thing.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
But I
almost cried when you're talking about when you're talking about all this stuff.
That is very by the way, that is more emotional than not having this.
I don't want to compare the two.
Yeah.
Please.
No.
Guys just don't want to ever be Michael Jordan. It's like it become the meme with the crying on the cry face. Michael Jordan. It's like the most famous meme in the world.
I think Prof G, by the way, talks about it a lot about men
for sure.
need to cry more, and he's really trying. And I
on a positive note,
cry.
On a positive note, Michael Jordan could fit 5 boxes of tissues in both his back pockets of his jeans, though.
True.
I saw that. Who said that? I know who said it. I was there.
Going to say it.
Yeah, that's right. We were saw a comedy show the other day. That was a funny one. So you're crying 24 hours. Was the guy a fake, a phony?
No, it wasn't a phony. She was a real person. It was a she.
It was a woman.
It was a woman.
Okay.
Which even makes it more annoying because like it's a.
You thought she had your back?
I thought she had my back. I thought she was like, we should do it. We're together.
Now you got egg on your face. You got all these thinking. I chose.
No, and by the way, it's not that it ended. It's not like she's like, yeah, the money's coming through. I just need the signature. I just need the bank. I just need you to come to China again. I just needed that. I just needed that. And then I was like, after a month,
I just need that source code. I just need that model.
Yeah, if you don't mind, just
put me on the repo and let me just download the code. And,
no big deal.
Yeah, no problem. But it's coming. As they're ripping you off, probably.
I never sent anything over. Like they never. I think there was a family issue there. I don't want to get into it.
No, it's fine.
You know.
I thought they might have took the technology.
Everything for the best because I think the deal wouldn't have gone through so easily if our cap table had. So everything is at the end of the day. Retrospectively, it's very easy to say, right? Yeah.
Will you have to go back to the other VCs?
I went back to the other VCs, and guess what?
They said no.
They said, "Fuck you." You already
were like, and I wanted to close the company.
Oh.
And I was like, I'm done. And
what did Aviv say at that point? Your co-founder.
Like the co-founders were like, again, I was very much, I think again, for men, it's very hard to deal with, like that I will say when I'm an emotional roller coaster, I see it with my husband, I see it like, there's like not a lot of logic. So they were like, when you said whatever, it was like a very emotional time. I can't remember exactly what they said. But our previous investors were like, let's put some more money in. Let's see what happens. Like, you guys have. We knew we had a good tech. We knew we solved something on the world of liveness, which is how to understand somebody's a live person and not a photo of yourself. So I think that was something we were very good at.
Aliveness. That's an interesting term.
Yeah. It's how to understand you're not looking at an image of a person, but at a person, and how to do it software only. So today the solutions around face recognition, all these, like what phones have right now are cameras and red light camera. Like there's ways to do it that's hardware based.
Recognition.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
But we had to solve a software solution for that. We didn't have access to the phone. We only had a software solution. So I think that's where we really differentiated ourselves, and we kept on going. We met Apple in the process, which again,
How'd that come about?
was in Israel. I got invited, again, being a female, I talk about it a lot. I've always been the minority in the room, but as a brand, it's great being the minority in the room too. I got invited to speak at every AI conference in 2016. I think there were like 6. I was a female tech CEO, AI, like I had all the,
Check the box.
so in Israel, whenever there was somebody that would come in, they were like, oh, see, we have many female founders, please meet the two. So I think that really helped me a lot.
Meet the two people.
Meet the two. No, kidding. There's more. And by the way,
There is a benefit to being the minority.
there's a big benefit to being the minority. It can't flip all the way over, which is, I think, what's happening now with going back to the college thing. The DEI thing kind of went too far. I'm really for diversity, equity, inclusion. I'm really for that, but you can't it's the world has to be
Balanced. There's no balance. There's no balance right now. Everything is, you give an inch and it's like, okay, seesaw's got to drop to the ground.
exactly.
Yeah.
I think white male deserve jobs too. Like I don't think you guys.
Point at him.
No, he's not white. So
I know I pointed at you, but I was like, I want to say I'm saying white men in general should have.
I'm
should
just
be
pale.
well, a lot of my friends who are people of color who are in DEI, like what they always say is a lot of people skip the E. We go to the D, we go to the I, we skip the E. And we can't skip the E because E is a very important part to make that equation happen. But I'm not qualified to speak on that, but I have many people who are. So if you want to talk to them, let me know and I'll hit you up.
So you got invited to something. Apple was in that room. They saw who you were.
Yeah, well, I didn't know it was with Apple actually. I got invited to, again. I thought it was like this, and we were on our way to move to America. So my husband and I and our 2 daughters were on our way to move. And we were moving for RealFace, and we were moving for my husband's a physician, and he got a fellowship here at MSK. So we were on our way to move, and I got invited to stay, and I was like, I'm not going to go. They probably want they want the female face founder, and I was like, everything was too much. I thought the company was on its way to failing. And then I look at they were like, oh, look at this doodle, fill in the hour that's convenient for you. And I see all of our direct competitors on that. That doodle is the best thing that's happened to me. And I'm like, oh, okay, they actually know. They're looking for a face recognition company. Immediately I go, I asked who it was. They wouldn't say. And I'm assuming people at Apple are even mad probably that I'm telling these things. I don't know.
We can replace every time we say Apple with the big fruit. We'll just call it the big fruit.
Oh, okay, perfect. So
I'll just record it. The big fruit. Can we cut that and just every time we say the word Apple, we'll just put in the big fruit?
the big fruit.
Did you see the movie Kill Bill?
If
Every time she says the
I
name.
called my daughter Mia because of that.
Yeah, so that's awesome. So they did every time she's about to say it, it was like beep.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to say Apple, we could be playful with that.
I don't
think
know.
it's
What do
fine.
you guys think?
You should just lean in and say the big fruit.
I think we should.
The big fruit.
There we go. So we're going to replace Apple. Rob's so mad. He's like, I got to produce this now and edit it in.
No, I do think that.
I
I think Apple's good for your brand, and I also think that
100%. It's the best thing that happened to my brand, by the way.
and this is
Yeah.
and this is so Googleable. It's already Googleable. long
Oh,
before this
100%.
episode,
I
So I
know.
think the way I look at it is, if it's already Googleable, lean into that shit. right? Because-
I agree. I was just debating with you guys out loud.
No,
and
I think you should. Yeah.
by the way, they did buy the company. Like if
Yeah.
and somebody released the PR, not me.
It's Googleable.
So I care deeply about the acquisition process. Take me through the journey of that. So you go, you get the doodle.
I think we're a very not classic acquisition story because at the end of the day, our acquisition happened from within less than 6 weeks. So
Soup to nuts.
So I meet them. I meet the big fruit. I I meet them in Israel. I move to the U.S. I stay in touch with them, even though they say they're not.
Said big fruit. Sorry, I'm watching him laugh.
I hate the fact that you were doing this right now.
Okay, go ahead.
And then I meet the big fruit apple, and we stay in touch, and they say this is not relevant the whole time. They're like, this is not relevant. This is not relevant. It's nothing. And I think that they're amazing. They're the most really secretive company in the world, and I think I still give them credit for that. Even when the deal was going on, we kept on thinking that that they're not releasing a Face ID, that they're buying us for a different reason. Like I didn't think we understood. I thought they were, because why the hell would they buy a company doing Face ID if they're not doing their own? And they bought a huge Israeli company before that was around the cameras and the Face ID. Like they were. It was clear they're going in the world of face recognition, but they kept on telling us that what we're doing is completely irrelevant. And then basically the tone changed at one point. I was in touch with somebody that does a lot of their tech scouting. Really nice guy. Very thankful to him until today, because I think this deal, you have to have a good champion. I think the most important thing in an acquisition process, I will say, is to have a champion within the company, somebody you can trust, somebody that, by the way, somebody that knows how to call you and say, hey, I think this is like the prize, but like, I think we had a very open communication. And that's the reason I believe this deal went through. So basically we went over there mid-December, and by February 2nd, the deal was done. So just like to finalize the process, I think it was a very fast, they needed something we had, and they wanted, like, they made the decision that this is the company. At the time, they were buying 3-4 companies a year. By the way, that's it.
Yeah.
Which again makes the fact that this was my best dream come true, because I would have never thought we would sell a company to Apple. If you asked me 7 years ago, what's the least chance of a company, like, I would put Google before, I would put probably every company before Apple.
When someone asked you when you're starting, who's gonna acquire this, you never even put
Never. I'm telling you, a VC actually said to me, what are the chances that Apple was going to buy it?
Yeah.
Like, they don't really buy companies, so probably not a lot. 0. Which, again, I was not good at raising money because of that, maybe.
I was gonna say, not the right answer.
Not the right answer. I learned that retrospect. Okay, you grow up within this process.
Yeah.
I thought being authentic was more important than being a good storyteller. I've learned that the way to raise money is to be the best storyteller in the room. Going back to why not number one. Like, I'd rather see somebody else tell the story, give the input, and not because I get.
And be authentic. I think you have to be an authentic storyteller.
Well, the best stories are authentic. Right?
The best stories are authentic. I call bullshit on people see-through bullshit, if I may. I think this whole industry is built on
Hubris.
a lot of
Hubris.
bullshit, which is fine. You have to bullshit. Like, if you say I'm going to build something that doesn't exist, it's by definition bullshit, because it doesn't exist. So I have no problem with the concept of bullshit, but I think that it's a very...
But you built the tech. You're like, we have the real tech. This is not bullshit.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, you have to know what you're building, be authentic about it, spend money in a very responsible way. Things that, this whole 2020, 2021, 2022, whatever happened there, I think now a lot of these companies are paying the price.
Did you believe that it was going to happen?
Never. Not until, especially because of what happened with the Chinese. So remember,
So you're a curmudgeon at this point. You're like, nothing's going to happen. We had a very famous guy, I've mentioned to him many times. He said, all deals take 6 months and deals never happen. That was his thought. He was a Jew also. He's like, pawn?
That is a pawn. My favorite. This is my happy place. I play chess. This is my big happy place. That's what I've been trying to build a company in the world of education, tech, and girls since I sold RealFace. I have yet to succeed, and we can talk about that after I go back to the acquisition, which I know.
I want to know. You're not, so you don't think about it. You don't think it's going to happen?
No, I don't think it's going to happen. Even when, again, we fly there, they meet the team, it looks like it's going to happen. We get a term sheet, but again, I've just been through this process 3 months before, where I have the term sheet, I have the signed deal, and it never
So you
happened.
still got the scars.
So I'm like, no, this is not. I was like, we can't tell anyone. It's not going to happen. Either the team. I'm like, guys, we're going there, but it's, who knows. And I want to say, I think the hardest part as a CEO, the hardest part for me was going through the acquisition. In some ways, it's easier to think you're going to close the company than to get everybody aligned. Some people are going to stay at Apple. Some people are not going to stay at Apple. Some people are going to get a job offer. Some people are not. Like it's a very complex stage. A lot of these tech people don't want to work at Apple. They could have worked at Apple previously. Like they were AI engineers before it was everybody. Like these were super talented people if they want. And I think that dynamic personally for me, again, as somebody that really cares what people think about her, especially people that she cares about, that was, I think, the hardest part as a CEO, especially not believing the deal was going to go through. So I'm like, I'm going through all this and the money's never going to come in. And so this is just
bullshit.
Yeah, this is why am I even but I think that part, with your co-founders, with employees, and then I'm not even talking about the negotiation with Apple, which again, we never took an investment banker. We got offered by 2 investment banks to work with us for free just to have Apple on their
resume. Yeah. Yep.
So it was very I got called on by 2 people that knew somebody on our board or something like that were like, hey, we'll work with you. Just let us negotiate this deal. And my father, who was a very important figure for me in this process, was like, do it. Like, this is a small enough company. You guys don't have a lot of investment. Just go at it. Let's see. Go out by yourself. So I negotiated by myself. I'm sure I left money on the table. By the way, I want to say that. Like, I don't think I got the best deal.
We would have gave 20% to the IB anyway.
But at the end of the day, look, I'm here because there was a deal, and the deal was signed, and we got this through. And
Did they pull any bullshit?
I want to say they're Apple for a reason.
The big fruit.
They're the big fruit for a reason. The night before, so we had the signed term sheet. We had the deal was agreed. Who comes in, who doesn't come in, who continues from the employees, who doesn't. Everybody was on board. And then the night before everything's supposed to go through, one of the guys from the big fruit calls me and says, well, so one of the people we said yes is actually a no, and we're going to take somebody off the deal. And I'm like,
We hear that a lot.
And I'm like, but I thought we agreed. I thought we've been negotiating this for a few weeks now. Like, why now? Why? And I hung up the phone, and of course I cried.
Called your dad?
Of course.
First call?
First call my dad. I was actually in Israel at the time, so I was with him I was at my parents' house. So I walk out, I'm like, they said that, and and at the end of the day, I don't know what would have happened if I would have put my foot down and been like, no, this is our agreement, blah, blah, blah. Maybe they probably would have still said yes. Mm-hmm. I don't know. But I was like, I just want this, like at this point, if by tomorrow, because of this X money, there's no deal, I prefer the deal to no deal.
We talking about like a 5% haircut or like a 25% haircut?
A lot of haircut. Enough haircut.
You go to a bob cut.
Not enough. No, I again, the deal was good. I think we returned.
You remember the bob?
I
please,
found
Robert, do not put a bob cut photo above my end. Please don't.
But they cut enough money from the deal to make it, for us, it hurt. It hurt a lot.
Yeah.
For them, I think it's what they make in the one of their retail stores in 2 seconds. Like but again, you're the best company in the world because we're the best company in the world.
But you know what? You now have a new brand. We talked about brands this entire time. We talked about P&G as a brand on your resume. We talked about Columbia as a brand on your resume. And now you have a new brand. Well, technically you have 2 because you were the entrepreneur at the other company that had a exit, but now you have another exit, and you don't have a regular exit. You have an exit to the big fruit. And that is incredibly impressive for you to have done that, and to survive that war and those failures and those pivots. And that's what the journey is all about, and that's what we really love on this show. And so I just want to say congratulations on having exited to them, no matter what happened in the journey. So now I want to go to one more point. This is my finale. This is what I live for. Don't steal this moment.
I don't want to take what you live for. Okay.
We call it the point when the wire drops. Did you cry?
I want to say, so again, we signed the deal.
Yeah.
And I have this stupid picture next to a big fruit store where I'm standing. I'm like holding right next to our house. I'm like holding and I'm sure again.
Do you have that photo? Can we get
I
that?
do have that photo.
So send that to us because we want to include that for sure.
And again, I'm sure that the money's not coming through because this has happened to me again. I'm sure like I've had this catharsis. Like I've had this thing where nothing happened before, so I'm still like, and then I went to play chess for a week in Washington Square Park. That's what I did. That was like I went to play chess and lose
To the best
to the
fucking chess player.
the worst, most annoying. Some of them are just bullshit talkers.
Yeah.
And it's my favorite thing to do.
Yeah.
It's my meditation, my escapism. I love losing. I love winning more than I love losing, but I don't mind losing in chess. And by the way, talking about minority, I was the captain of my chess team in my undergrad, not because I was the best player. I was the only one on the team there as well. So like, I think this minority play, by the way, to all minorities out there, it's a good thing as well. Like,
Lean in.
yeah, lean into it. We are who we are. Like nobody's going to take away these.
Brands are about different.
My cousin works at Google. Well, was working at Google, and he's like raising capital and all this stuff. And I was like, "Where's the language about minority?" And he's like, "I never thought of myself as a minority." And I was like, "You're fucking Spanish." I was like, "That's a minority." I was like, "You got to lean into that."
No.
I was like, "If it gives you an extra effort," I was like, "You are I mean, you've worked at some of the biggest companies in the world. You are a genius, right? The what you do is very hard to find, and you're Hispanic. Lean into it."
I agree. I think again, if you only lean into it, that's a problem. Like if I was just the woman in the room,
yes,
then don't talk to me.
No,
like,
but if you're fierce and you're legit and you can back it up and you've got actual technology, to your point,
I agree.
And it's just another end, and it gives you an extra.
I think I've gotten a lot of the things in my life, and I know this might not be very popular because I've tapped into it, and I'm proud of it. Like I think I got into. It was probably easier for me to get into Colombia because I'm a female. Like I think it's not a bad thing. Like I wanted to get in Colombia and I got in. Like I can't.
I think it's only a bad. So for the listeners that just heard her say that, I think no, I don't. I think it's important to say the only people that should be upset with you are the people that do it without merit. You're exceptional. Math, chess, technology, computer science, risk taking, decision making. You've done all of these things. Leadership, yeah, and you're a woman, and you've gotten some benefits from being a woman. I think it's the people that get a trophy for no reason that everybody gets pissed off about. So I just wanted to make that piece of clarity for you there. Again, so you get it. So you get the check. You get the wire drops.
The wire drops.
And then, did you cry? Were you happy? Did you feel like, oh my God, it's reality?
Where were you? So when it hit, where were you and what you were doing? Because it sounds like you were.
I went again. I went. I did that picture. We saw the money coming through, and I went and had a drink with my favorite person on the planet, which is my husband. Still love him after 4 kids. Just want to say. And then I by the way, it's funny, but I got pregnant. Not we got pregnant. I got pregnant.
He contributed.
Yeah, he contributed, but very little to what I feel like my body contributed.
We might want to delete that for his sake.
Yeah. And then I took some time off. Not really. I took a little bit of time off. I went to play chess for a week. I had this like, It's just, I don't know, for all the people out there, it's the biggest high that you can like get, especially.
Describe it for someone who hasn't had it before.
I'm going to give a horrible description of it.
Your description.
But it's my description. I felt like we were on a dinghy in the ocean with RealFace, and I'm driving this. Everybody's like on the dinghy with me and trying to help, but everybody's basically like, and I'm like staying up and like driving this dinghy. And to my feeling, it was as if this huge like battleship came up, the big fruit, and picks up our. This is how I used to like. But I thought we were gonna drown. Okay, so I thought we were like on this dinghy by ourselves, gonna drown, and everybody's amazing and helping. But at the end of the day, I feel like I'm like tired. I haven't slept for about a year by now, like with the kids and the company and everything. And then I feel like the battleship kind of like picks us up, and now we're inside and we're safe. And the sentence I said was, "I'm never going back in the ocean." I'm never, ever going back in the ocean. I'm never starting a company again, which, by the way, funny enough, when I had my first child, and she knows this, that's why I can say it, the minute I had the baby, which I didn't have time for a epidural, never mind the others, I had natural birth the first time, and whoever hasn't gone through it, it's like hell comes into earth and takes over your body, and then a beautiful little human comes out, but you have to go through hell for that little beautiful human to come out. And the first thing I did as a mother, which is kind of horrible, is I looked at my husband. I was like, I'm never, ever doing this again, ever. That was my first sentence as a mom.
Biologically, something happens, right, physiologically, where your brain actually forgets that so that you have more kids. I read about this somewhere.
Yeah, I have 4 now, by now. Like, I've obviously done it again, but that was my first feeling of that. Like, that was so painful. Why would somebody ever do this again? And then I did it again and again and again. Because my kids are
everything for you.
They motherhood turned. I never thought, I never had that. Like, oh, I'm gonna be again. I went studying computer. Like, I wanted my career.
So you're never gonna have another kid.
Never gonna have another kid. Never gonna have another startup. 4 kids in, and then yes, I mean.
You're back on the dinghy.
I'm back on the dinghy.
For those that don't know, a dinghy is the little tiny boat that sits on the back of a big boat that you take from your, what is it called?
Yacht.
No, so it could be a yacht, but or sailboat.
Yeah, any boat.
You take it from, like, if you tie.
It's a non-engined tiny blow-up boat.
Yeah,
that's a dinghy.
And some of them have engines.
True.
It transports you to the real transportation.
So sailboats don't dock. They usually sit in the middle of the water, and you tie it to a like a float almost.
He's talking to you because
then
on the water. So I'm just talking to you.
So what is it called? What is that thing called in the middle? The big circle that you tie to. I'm drawing a blank.
And here, I know how to say it.
Anyway, it's like an anchor on the ground, but it's a float, like a buoy. That's correct, but it's not a buoy. But it's like a buoy. You tie to that, and then you take the dinghy to land or to the dock. So it is a tiny little boat that if you're on the ocean with, you are likely going to die.
Yes, and that's the feeling I had all the time.
What was the next dinghy you got on?
So the next dinghy. So I tried to kind of find myself, and as I said, I'm really into girls chess. Tried to start a nonprofit that teaches girls chess in the community, teaches women chess in the community in order for them to teach girls chess in the community. Because as we said, there's been a lot of research, and I can talk about this for hours, so I'm going to try to keep it short. But like, why was I one of the only in computer science? Why are there less girls in business and all these things and in chess? And they did do a research about chess. So one of the interesting things about chess is there's always been like no female grandmasters, almost very little. And they said, and like, chess is the ultimate intellectual challenge, whatever. I think it's just a fabulous game. I don't know if it's such an intellectual challenge, my favorite game. And so they always said, okay, just men are intellectually superior to women. And I think it's been kind of like accepted.
I blame Russia for that.
What?
I blame Russia for that.
But
there's math on that. That's not an opinion of mine.
Well, you should blame the world for that, because what they did was they did a research in the UK and Germany and saw that basically when you take all the signed up chess players, like if you're an actual chess player, you sign up, you're in a union, and then when you play games, you get rated and you go up and down. Never mind, if you want an official rating, you have to be signed up. So they took all the people that are signed up in Germany and the UK, and the percentage of females that are signed up as chess players was 5.82. Now, it's not that there's no women in the high levels. It's just that in correlation to 5.82% of all of the players, we get to the exact levels that we should be. So it's not that that men are better than women. There's just less women going into that funnel. And that's right about chess, and that's right about business, and that's right about computer science, and that's right about all these things. And that's why what we really should be doing is getting more females into these funnels to start with. And that's why I really thought that it would be a great idea if we taught women in the community how to play chess, because when you teach females things, they usually pass it on to more people in the community. Like, that's just like something. So I really, really wanted to do that. And I learned that trying to run a nonprofit is
so hard.
So hard. It's even worse than running a business.
Did you call it chasing 582? It's the first one my mind went. I don't know. It's the brainer, man.
Nonprofits are very, very difficult.
Very difficult.
You tried the 501(c)(3)s?
I tried it. I started connecting company. I tried doing that for a while. until I understood that I'm not the right person. Like, you have to be really good at raising money, which, as I said, not my strongest trait. And if I wanted to do that, then why don't I actually build a company around this? And then I tried to build a kind of this female robot that plays on a game console with your kids, Scrabble and chess and any classic board game that basically teaches your kids things around logic, writing, reading, all these things. And kind of, instead of inventing new games, why don't we use like games that have been going through the humanity, and if chess and all these games that really are so meaningful, and have kids play on them next to you as a parent, and have female kind of characters play with them. And then we kind of converted that into a holistic display that plays these games with you. And then I met this amazing group that came out of Disney, and we built this holographic display. We tried to launch that. We did, but again, we wanted to be perfect. We waited. This is going through 2021, 2022. And in May 2022, we do our demo day. And they came. I actually thought we were going to be, May was still, they were still coming.
Mm-hmm.
But come like those, I thought we were going to have like a fight over who's, I thought we were like acing it. And then basically both terms were retreated. Companies stopped investing. It's consumer robot. You couldn't get a worse basically consumer hardware is like the worst industry to find VCs.
They eat hardware. Well, what's funny,
But eat hardware. Rightfully so, by the way. Rightfully so, as somebody that's been in this world.
It's tough.
So
I would also say,
Have you seen Teenage Engineering? Teenage Engineering?
No.
I hope I'm getting the name correctly. They're launching so many cool different things. They got stuff in the Moment Design Store. Google it for me.
I think I know exactly what you're talking
about. If I'm talking about the right company, Robert fact-checked me on that. I think it's called Teenage Engineering. They actually just did a partnership with Perplexity, which is taken on Google and generative search. They've done so many cool. Is it Teenage Engineering? But yeah, started out they were doing like MIDI stuff, whatever. Needless to say, it goes to show the power of. I believe that in order to generate commerce in the future, you need a couple of components. I believe you need community. I believe you need brand, and I think community and brand and content is what unlocks commerce. And for me, Teenage Engineering, no one want to touch that space, right? Like, but now you got their products are in the MoMA store and MoMA Design. They're doing global partnerships on a global scale because they have the community. They're not doing anything better than what you were doing. It's just,
they started
a community.
No, I think one of the reasons I'm here on this show, when you guys contacted me, I was like, this is truly the space I want to go into. And I'm not getting into that space. I tried to do my own company in the space, and I really want to find more opportunities because, to be frank, my passion is in building shit in the world of education, in the world of technology, and pushing kind of the girl brand, which I think is a brand that needs to be redone and is kind of going through a change in this era. So
I'm going to shout them out. I have to shout out Ivy, CEO of a company called Prequel, which I am privileged enough to be working with right now. They are an ed tech company doing incredible things.
Really?
Headquartered in Austin, Texas. The ed tech, Silicon Valley of ed tech, if you will.
Yes.
So I want to shout Ivy out. Definitely give her a plug in the show notes. She's an incredible young woman, a woman of color, doing incredible things.
Love to be
in the space. That email will be happening as soon as we wrap up. But yeah, I think I love the passion for that because what's funny is I've never met a person who's in ed tech, except for like the big corporate, ed tech people, but I've never met someone who talks about education and doesn't light up the way that you just lit up. It just hasn't happened. So to me, what is the thing for you that sparks you, that had you go and make the tattoo that reminds you every day that you love it?
I first of all, I think it's something that happened to me around motherhood. My mom, by the way, is a teacher, so I think I've always had that at home. I kind of always looked at my dad as the career path, but then I don't know if I'll end up as a teacher in a school. I think that's the most amazing thing. I just don't know how good I am at it. But I think there's something, what's more privileged than giving kids a moment where they're curious and enlightening. And like I see it with my kids. If I have those type of moments with them, I get this, it's out of my personal need. This is such a happy moment, and giving kids that opportunity to learn, to inspire, to educate them, to teach them something so they could teach you more things. I think That's just the most amazing thing.
It's a hit of oxytocin and dopamine that you can't
get anywhere else. And by the way, a funny story about my dad is that he taught me chess, and then he stopped playing with me after he lost when I was really young. And then nobody played with me for a really long time until I went back to it. And I always complained to my parents. They never sent me to like a chess. I just learned from him. And then I had to pick it up really later in life, which is why I think I'm not a good enough player.
I wish we had more time because we could play a game. That'd be a fun little thing to put on the show, but you would absolutely kick my ass. There's no question about it. But yeah.
I didn't play for years.
It's a great game.
Play with your kids. Play with your daughters.
But I absolutely will. I love it, and I'm inspired by it. But I had not played in probably like 25 years, and I played against some tech guy who told me he was like loved chess and he was really good at it. I kicked his ass.
Yeah.
Love that.
You did what I call the fighter game version of chess, which is like if you ever play the fighter games, you have the button mashers.
Yeah.
And the button mashers can beat these like savants of the game because they're just the savant expects the savant, and then
there's nothing better. I backpacked. I didn't talk about this, but I did travel the world I backpacked in India. I backpacked in South America for a year. And I remember myself, like I was walking on the beach in Goa and I'm wearing a bathing suit and I'm 20 something years old. And I see people playing chess and I'm like, can I play? And there's this, whenever I ask to play, everybody's like, do you know the rules? 100%.
So insulting.
100% of the time. 100% of the time. And I'm like, kinda. This is always my answer. It's like, kinda. Because if you've asked me that patronizing question, I'm going to answer in a objectifying little, yeah, of course and then it's great because when people have no expectation, chess is such a psychological game. When people think you can't play, they're going to do stupid stuff to try to grab your pieces, especially if they think they're better than you. So I never think I'm better than anybody at chess. First of all, I've been beaten by kids over and over again. Not my own kids, which if they're watching, they better start playing better. But I've been beaten by 8-year-old, 9-year-old kids, which is very humbling, sad. Because, by the way, it's a lose-lose, as I always used to say. We used to play this league in Israel and Tel Aviv, where we used to play with these young kids. And then if you win, they cry. And if you lose, you're just like, I just lost an 8, 9-year-old. It's just sad. So
back to content and commerce, right? You think about just what the show, The Queen's Gambit, did for chess in terms of the searching, the purchases around chess-related things, chess-related merchandise, chess-related thing, chess tournaments, all these things. So when we think about content, we think about brand, goes right back to it. Single greatest way to grow a business outside having a killer product and a killer product market fit is great brand, great content, good differentiation, which on that note, I think that's a wonderful place for us to wrap up this amazing
Incredible. This was another amazing one. Are we at 50? Is this 50? I think this might be 50. We don't know. 49. I think it might be 49
in terms of launch because we had a flip-flop. Yeah. So got that.
But you are exceptional. You're such a good storyteller. I think that you are better than you realize. I could coach you to raise money.
Yeah, and you got great energy.
I'm actually good at that.
So I'll just do.
Very bad at raising.
I'll do an outro. I will teach you.
Teach me.
Lastly, just again, that's a great place for us to wrap up. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on Forward Obsessed. For everybody, we will include all the great stuff as always in the show notes. And please remember to give us a review on your favorite platform wherever you tune on, so we can keep doing the show and keep having an amazing guest like her on the show.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for listening to Forward Obsessed. Please share this episode, subscribe, and leave a review on your podcast app. If you have feedback or suggestions for our next guest, visit us at forwardobsessed.com. If you want to dive deeper into every interview, subscribe to our Substack at forwardobsessed.substack.com. Also, find us on Instagram or TikTok at forwardobsessed to see all the best moments from every episode. This episode was produced by Robert Roach from District Studios in New Haven, Connecticut. If you would like to learn more about the team that makes this show possible, visit digitalsurgeons.com.